Welcome to The Explainer. In the app development world, there's this one huge question that just keeps coming up. How do you build an app for every screen out there without having to, build it over and over again from scratch? Well, today we've got two tech giants stepping into the ring to give us their answer. We're going to see a real showdown between Google's Flutter and Microsoft's .NET MAUI. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll talk about that cross-platform challenge. Then we'll meet our two big frameworks. After that, it's the head-to-head comparison. We'll look at what our source material decided was the winner, and then wrap things up with some limitations and final thoughts you'll definitely want to keep in mind.
All right, first up, let's really set the stage. We're talking about the cross-platform challenge, the whole reason these frameworks even exist. So what's the big dream here? It's really this. Can you write your code once and have it run beautifully on every single platform? I'm talking high-quality, high-performance apps for Android, iOS, Windows, Mac, you name it, and all from a single, clean code base? That is the challenge we're talking about. Okay, time to meet the frameworks themselves. Let's introduce the two main contenders in today's showdown, and we'll kick things off with the one from Google. All right, in this corner, we've got Flutter. It's an open-source UI toolkit from Google that first hit the scene back in 2017. The whole idea is to let you develop apps for mobile, web, and desktop, all from one single codebase. So what's going on under the hood with Flutter? Well, it's got a few key parts. It's all built on a language called Dart. Then there's this really powerful C++ engine that does all the heavy lifting for rendering. But the real magic, the thing developers love, is its library of widgets. Think of them like ready-made UI building blocks for both Google's Material Design and Apple's Cupertino style that let you piece together a beautiful app super fast. And in the other corner, we have .NET MAUI. This is Microsoft's big play in the cross-platform game. It's a framework for making native mobile and desktop apps with C# and XAML. And for anyone who's been around for a while, yep, this is the official successor to Xamarin Forms. Now, .NET MAUI brings some serious power to the table. One of its biggest features is how it can tap directly into the native APIs of a device. We're talking sensors, the network, the clipboard, you name it. It's also got this awesome feature called Hot Reload, which is a total game changer for developers. You can literally edit your code and see the changes in your app live without having to recompile everything. Plus, it's got great support for things like data binding and dependency injection, which basically just helps you write cleaner, more maintainable code. All right, let's get to the main event, the head-to-head comparison. We're going to pit these two frameworks against each other on some key technical and business points. Okay, round one is all about the language, Dart versus C#. The source material points out a really interesting trade-off here. Flutter's Dart is known for being clean, concise, and just easier to pick up. This makes it fantastic for mobile apps. On the other hand, you've got C# with .NET MAUI, which is this absolute powerhouse that's super popular in the enterprise world. It might have a steeper learning curve, but it's built for huge, large-scale projects. Next up, round two, their whole approach to being cross-platform. And this is where they really differ. Flutter is all about write once, run anywhere. You have one single code base, and you get a super consistent UI no matter what device it's on. .NET MAUI, though, it takes a different path. It uses a unified API, but its goal is to create a true native look and feel by using the platform's own UI elements. All right, round three, let's talk about market popularity. Let's step away from the code for a second and see what the community thinks. And wow, this chart really tells a story, doesn't it? According to the source, when you look at search interest, Flutter is way out in front. And the reason for this seems to be its fast development time and the huge, super active community that's grown up around it. And for our fourth and final round, cost efficiency. Now, on the surface, this looks like a tie. Both Flutter and .NET MAUI are free and open source, no licensing fees. But, and this is a big but, the source does point out that if you're building a serious project with .NET MAUI, you might end up needing some of Microsoft's other paid tools, like Visual Studio Enterprise or Azure DevOps. So that's something to factor in. Okay, so after all that, what's the final scorecard? Let's get to the source's verdict on which framework really comes out on top in this analysis. Well, the author makes a pretty strong case for Flutter. They say, and I'm quoting here, Flutter stands out as it is a well-established environment that has undergone consistent enhancements and proved its efficiency and flexibility. So basically, it's seen as mature and road-tested. And when it comes to how the app actually feels to use, the verdict from the source is just as clear.
To quote again, Flutter offers a more responsive and faster user interface than NET MAUI.
In the design round, Flutter gets another big win. The source highlights its massive widget library as a huge advantage. It says, Flutter offers greater flexibility when it comes to design. With over 100 plus widgets, you can create beautiful, complex apps. And finally, this is a big one. The source concludes that, at the end of the day, Flutter apps tend to be smaller and faster than those built with .NET MAUI. And a big part of that comes down to how the code itself gets compiled. Okay, but hold on. Before we wrap this up, it is super important to remember that neither of these is a perfect solution. They both have some shared weaknesses, and you really need to understand the bigger picture here.
Yeah, the analysis points out some real limitations for both of them. For instance, neither one has support for things like tvOS, watchOS, or CarPlay. Sometimes getting them to work seamlessly with certain native device features can be a pain. And compared to older frameworks, their third-party libraries are still playing catch-up. Plus, as cool as Hot Reload is, debugging can sometimes get a little tricky, and the final app size can be on the larger side. So what does this all mean for you? It really comes down to this. Given these trade-offs, which one of these frameworks is the right fit for your next big idea? Are you looking for the speed, the beautiful UI, and the flexibility of Flutter? Or do you need the deep enterprise power and the true native feel of .NET MAUI? Ultimately, the best choice really depends on what you're trying to build.